Hi, welcome to Chad's Silversmithing. Today I wanted to give you a little tip, actually a series of tips about making rings and getting sizes right. And so we'll be focusing on some multiple little things that people run into when they're trying to get the size just right on a ring. So stay tuned and we'll get started with that. But before you do, if you enjoy the content of this video, make sure to hit the like button for me. And if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And also hit the bell button so that you get updates when I upload a new video. So let's get going. Okay, there's a few things to talk about ring sizing. And I think maybe we should start with the fact that when you're checking the size of a ring, the calibrations on the mandrel that you have may or may not be accurate to actual official sizes, depending upon how expensive of a mandrel you have. I have a pretty cheap model here, one of the lower end ones, and so I'm guessing the calibrations aren't too super accurate, but the good thing is that barely matters at all. The other thing that you'll need if you're checking someone's finger size, or one of the things that's handy to have if you're checking someone's finger size, is one of these finger gauges. And they generally go from, you know, like size 3 up to size 18, or it varies from brand to brand. But the thing that really matters to us when you're checking someone's finger size is that if this is the one that fits their finger, that's all that we need to know, really. Because when we go to measure for a piece of wire to make the ring out of, what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll slide it down on the ring mandrel. Okay? And this actually says 6 on it, but when I push it down snugly on this, it comes to about a 6 1/4 on the ring mandrel. So that's why I say the size really doesn't matter too much. If I know this one fits the person, all I have to do is remember that when I measure for a piece of wire, I want to measure it around the 6 1/4 here instead of the 6. Now, sometimes they hit right on the nose, sometimes they don't, depending upon the size. But the biggest issue is that this is made by one company, this is made by another company, and so their calibrations are a little bit different. What we'll do is, let's say we were going to make a 6 1/2 there, then the easiest way to measure for that size, you're going to cut a piece of wire for a ring, is to take a strip of paper that's kind of similar width to the wire stock that you're using. So if I was going to make a ring out of some, I don't know, say 6 gauge half round or something like that, I would take a strip of paper like this and I'd wrap it right around the 6 1/4 there and try and center it over that spot. And then you'll see that there's, let's see where my pencil went. Right here is where they meet, right? When you're cutting stock to make the ring, you want to always add a little bit extra there because you're going to have to file the ends a little bit to neaten them up, and so that'll eat up some of this excess that we're going to add. You also have to account for the fact that we're measuring with something, this piece of strip of paper is basically two-dimensional. The wire that we're using has some depth to it, which when you bend it into a circle has an effect on the inside diameter of the final product, and so this also helps to compensate for that. Now for me, when I center it over this and add about 1/8 of an inch-ish beyond where they meet, that usually gets me pretty close to the size that I want it to hit when I'm done. Okay. So that's what I would do then, is I would take the side that wrapped around the mandrel, this side here, and I would use that length to measure my wire stock. Some other things you should think about when you're doing this. One of the things I meant to mention about these, if you need to make a ring for someone and they're in another state or something and they don't know their finger size, you can also have them wrap one of these around their finger like this, and you can get sort of an approximation and get it pretty close usually. You want to have them do it not very tightly, and then maybe measure the length from where they mark it here and to the end of the piece of paper, and then they can send you that length, and then you should be able to translate that into a pretty close approximation of the size that they want. So that's a handy tip sometimes. The limiting factor there is how accurately your customer is able to wrap a piece of paper around whoever's finger it is that they want to take the size of. So there can be some errors on that from the customer side as well. A couple of random things about ring sizes. If you are making a ring that has a thicker band, a wider band, it's going to fit people's fingers differently than if they're doing a ring that's a narrow band like this. Okay, so most people, I have a little bit more than some other people, have a lot of loose flesh around here. Your knuckles here, and then there's this kind of this loose skin and a little bit of meat and muscle there. When you put on a narrow ring and it goes up there, the excess flesh and skin and muscle tissue there kind of pushes to either side of it. And so, let's say this size is I don't know, let's say it's if it actually fit me, say it's a size 13 or something. If I'm going to make myself a ring that's a wider band, I want to make sure to add about an extra half a size, because when you have that wider band, this excess skin here has nowhere to go. It's got to be contained inside of the ring. It can't push that far out. And so because of that, where it normally pushes to either side, it can't do that, so you have to have a little bit bigger round ring to contain that stuff. One of the cool things about, and it's useful not only if you miss your size a little bit on the small side, but if you have a customer and you're at a show and you want to sell a ring, but the ring won't quite fit them, it's just a tiny bit too small, you can actually stretch these rings up to a certain gauge on these ring mandrels like this. And the way you do that is you just put it on there and then you use your plastic hammer and hit downwards while you're spinning the mandrel like this. Knock it loose, flip it over. I flip it over like that because the mandrel's tapered and it gets gradually bigger, so if you do it in just one direction, pound it down, it's going to make the inside of your ring be a little bit tapered like that. So if you flip it back and forth periodically when you're doing this, that'll prevent that from happening. Okay? So I found that these silver bands that are up to about maybe 8 gauge are relatively easy to stretch. You can get them up to a size 5.5 pretty easily. The thing that surprises a lot of people is that it doesn't break your solder joint. And if you've got a good solder joint, generally the silver wire will break before the solder joint will. So that's something good to know. They do make ring stretchers that are specific machines designed for this. There's one that has there's like a $13 to $15 model you can get where you tap a peg into something that causes it to spread open wider. Those would probably be handy. I've never actually bought one of those before, but I've seen other people who like them a lot. They also have some high-end machines for in the $500, $600, $700 range, where it will mechanically allow you to stretch rings more easily, as well as rings that have stones set in them and stuff, without causing the settings to be damaged by the stretching process. So I'm not sure, I've never used one of those, but I've seen them in catalogs, and I suspect those would be handy if you were someone who worked in a jewelry store or something, but I don't think you probably have to spend that kind of money if you're just a hobbyist. The last thing I'd say is, if you're when you're measuring to cut your piece of wire for your ring, I would err on the side of it being slightly too long rather than having it be slightly too short, because it's much easier to remove an extra piece and resolder it than it is to insert a new piece to fill in an empty space that you had to create to make it bigger. So I always try to err on the side of a little bit too big rather than too small, just to save myself having to go back and fixing things so much. Well, I hope you found those tips useful, and remember to, before you leave, make sure to hit the like button, and if you enjoyed this a lot, then go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and you'll get to see some more interesting tips like this. So again, thanks for watching, and happy silversmithing.